Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is tomorrow. After yet another full year of patiently waiting, it's finally here. Actually, I'm not one of the people that has that reaction when talking about the parade. For me, it usually goes more like this. Imagine I'm peeling potatoes or something on Thanksgiving morning. Hey, should I put on some music or something? Yeah, go ahead. Actually, you know what? The parade is probably on. Yeah, well, put that on then. Or maybe you are one of the people that looks forward to it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a fun event. But right now, I'm realizing that this entire parade is an extremely American thing, in that anyone watching this outside of America might have a hard time relating to this. Macy's is an American company. Thanksgiving is an American holiday. At least parades are pretty universal. So let me take a minute to explain exactly what I'm talking about here. Thanksgiving is one of the biggest holidays in the United States. It's about a month before Christmas, and soon after Christmas comes New Year's. We tend to group all these together and refer to them as the holidays. I always thought of this parade as a way of celebrating the start of the holidays. Though it is called the Thanksgiving Day Parade, there's a bit of a Christmas theme to it. Santa goes by in his sleigh, and there's just a bunch of Christmas-themed acts. It's probably why the word day is in its name. It's on Thanksgiving Day, but it's not necessarily a Thanksgiving parade. And then, if you're not familiar with Macy's, it's a department store, one that's not remarkably unlike the others, but I'd say it's one of the oldest and one of the most well-known. And you can imagine how having their name attached to such a big event would be good for them, and I'll get to that in a minute. The parade itself has dancing acts, singing acts, marching bands, just numerous performances. But the thing that the parade is most famous for is balloons. Not the little balloons you're used to seeing either. I'm talking about 50-foot balloons high above everyone's head, usually in the shape of cartoon characters. Spider-Man, Pikachu, the Kung Fu Panda, even Charlie Brown kicking a football, they're all there. Let me properly express the magnitude of this parade. As far as I know, most everyone in the country is familiar with it. The parade is older than TV itself, so there was once a time where everyone was tuning into the radio to hear about it. But now it airs on NBC every Thanksgiving morning, and then every Thanksgiving afternoon, NBC airs a repeat of it. It tends to get over 20 million views on its telecast, but when it's all said and done, they estimate that nearly 50 million people will have seen it, and that includes over 3 million people that stand outside in New York City on typically cold mornings in late November. There's even a classic Christmas movie called Miracle on 34th Street that features Macy's department store as well as this parade pretty heavily. I've admittedly never seen the movie. I was going to watch it in preparation for this video, but I didn't want to watch a Christmas movie before Thanksgiving, and I obviously wanted to release this before Thanksgiving. But I did learn that it's called Miracle on 34th Street because the big Macy's store in New York associated with the parade is on 34th Street. To give you a pop culture reference to the parade that I'm more familiar with, track 12 on Green Day's 2000 album Warning is titled Macy's Day Parade. Macy's Day Parade. Now, clearly this is a big thing, and with so many eyes on it each year, it's a perfect place to advertise. Think about it for a second. Not just millions of people watching it, they're watching it with their families, together on Thanksgiving, getting into the holiday spirit. The parents are watching the same parade that they remember watching as a kid, and the kids are creating their own set of childhood memories. And all this is happening while watching fun dancing performances and 50-foot Snoopy balloons. It's a very wholesome experience, and I'd hate to commercialize something like this, but here I go. This is the type of event that advertisers want to be a part of, and there's advertising all over it. It may be cleverly disguised at times, but it's there. Most of the actual figures aren't available because Macy's and all the other parties do a good job at keeping it all under wraps. But we can tell where the transactions are taking place. First off, there's commercial breaks, all through the broadcast on NBC. Those are the more obvious ads, which I can only imagine with their wide viewership and wholesome content must be some of the priciest commercial time that one can buy. Another component of advertising are the floats and the balloons and all the stuff in the parade. The price that Disney has to pay to have a massive Mickey Mouse balloon in the center of the parade. And then also consider the price it takes to construct it. According to Ebates, it cost $190,000 for a new balloon sponsor and $90,000 for repeat sponsors. But the component of advertising that I'm most interested in is Macy's. It's the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Their name is in the title, and that's the way everyone says it. You would think the Macy's part of the name would be dropped when people say it, but it's not. You may also think that Macy's just acts as a sponsor. My original perception was that the parade was probably ran by the city, or by NBC, or by some other company, and that Macy's simply pays a fee to have their name attached. Well, that would be an incorrect thought. Really, it's the furthest thing from the truth. Macy's is completely responsible for this parade. They put it together, they pay for it, they even started it in 1924. Back then, the parade was different. Obviously, it wasn't anywhere near the size it is today, but also there weren't any balloons. Instead of balloons, they had live animals from the Central Park Zoo. It was originally intended to promote Macy's huge block-long store in New York, and it must have been a big success because soon after it they announced they would be hosting another one next year, and they did. They've done it every year since, with the exception of 3 years. These were 3 consecutive years in the 1940s because of the war, due to the fact that some of the supplies needed for the parade, such as helium, were needed for the war effort. I wanted to mention that because it's a perfect example of how the general public was affected by this war. Even then, the parade had been going for nearly 20 years, and it was something that at least the New Yorkers, if not more of the country, had come to depend on. The fact that the streets were empty that day and there was no celebration, and the reason for it was a massive war happening throughout the whole world, well, that's something that would make me uneasy. Fortunately, the parade survived it and made a big return after just a brief absence. So Macy's is in fact responsible for putting it all together. I'd love to figure out whether or not it's beneficial to them, but without Macy's cooperation, it's impossible. I don't even think it would be possible with their cooperation. You'd have to look at the massive cost of putting everything together, of which there are only estimates available. Macy's won't tell us what it is. But they do say that it's heavily ran by Macy's employees and volunteers, which would help things out a little. I mean, you'd have to compare the deals in place with NBC and the City of New York and the sponsors of the floats and just about a million other things. My guess is that they must benefit from it, or at least they think they do, just based on the fact that they've been doing it every year. If they were losing money from it, it probably wouldn't have made it past the 1920s. What I think is the biggest benefit they get from it is having their name all over it. It's the kind of advertising that's practically impossible to buy. You could put your name on a baseball field or something like that, but it really doesn't compare. This is more like if someone put their name before the Super Bowl or the Oscars. Nintendo's Super Bowl or Nike's Oscars. Something like that. And when I say those, it just sounds crazy right now. But just imagine if Nike somehow started the Oscars and we've had 90 years to get used to the name, it might sound a little more natural. That's exactly what Macy's did. What they did may even be better. We already talked about how the parade has such a positive image, always good to be associated with something positive. But what I've yet to point out is how the name of a department store is seen by just about everyone right before the start of the holiday shopping season. To me, that's the genius of it, and that's where the huge benefit lies. There's really no great way to know how the parade affects holiday sales, nothing that I can think of. I thought maybe they would say something about it in their annual report, but they only mention the parade once, and it's in a very unhelpful way. They do mention how their sales increase in November and December, but that happens with all companies in the industry. There's nothing to prove that it's affected by the parade, and not just the holiday season in general. You could compare their change in sales during the season to other companies in the industry, but I didn't bother with that. I just think there's far too many factors aside from the parade that could cause differences in those numbers. There's really not much of a conclusive way of telling, but common sense would tell you that it helps tremendously. If it were called Company Man's Thanksgiving Parade, I suspect I would get a little spike in views each year right around that time. It's just the fact that it's for a business that already gets a spike around that time makes it very difficult to isolate. So tomorrow's the big day, and I recommend you tune in. You don't have to space out 3 hours of your day to catch every second of it, but put it on in the background when you're stirring that cranberry sauce. And if all goes according to Macy's plan, you'll be at their store doing all your Christmas shopping soon after. Or if you're not, I'm sure Macy's is fine with that too. At the very least, they've delivered a positive experience that you now associate with their name. Let me know in the comments, are you going to watch this parade tomorrow? Are you one of the people that never misses it? Are you like me, where you turn it on if you remember? Or maybe you've never seen it. And if you're one of those people, have I motivated you to at least check it out? And if not, at least check out that Green Day song. It's only 3 minutes of your time. And afterward, let me know what you thought of that. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.